Hello again, my name is Joseline Nicholas, and I am your presenter tonight. For those who are just joining us, welcome. A few items I wanted to mention. One is that this webinar is being recorded. We do have a copy of the slides as well as the recording itself. So if for any reason you'd like a copy of the recording, we do make them available on our YouTube channel. We actually do send them out as well, so you probably will receive them. However, if you wanted to see all the other webinars that we've done in the last couple of years that we've been doing this, we do have a YouTube channel, and just search my name, Joseline Nicholas, on YouTube, and that should come up. Another thing is, if you have any questions while we're doing this presentation, please put them in the Q&A section, or you can also put them in the chat. Usually we will answer questions at the end of the presentation. I just like to go through the content because some of those questions might be answered while I'm speaking or I'm doing the presentation. However, if there's something that you need clarified or you have a follow-up question, please do post those questions in the Q&A section and I will get to them. We know that some questions were submitted ahead of time. I will do my very best to answer all the questions at the end. So if that's you have a question that you submitted, please be patient and know that I'll get to them at the end of the presentation. We also have people who are on social media. So if you see me on my phone, that's what I'm doing, just checking all the different questions that are coming in through our social media platforms. You can either submit them as comments or you can submit them you can submit those questions as private messages as well. We have a team that is monitoring and making sure that all the questions are answered. Alrighty, so it's about 7:03 and I will get started. Once again, welcome to our presentation tonight. My name is Joseline Nicholas. I am a local real estate agent and I am also an investor. So I've been investing in real estate for about 10 years now. And I actually got started in the real estate industry as an investor. At the time, I had a full-time job. My husband had a full-time job, and we both used our income to buy properties. And over time, we just, we're getting a lot of questions from our friends and family. They wanted to learn more about what we're doing. So we ended up getting licenses. We're both licensed, and we left our jobs to work in real estate full-time. So that's what we do. We own properties in Hamilton, Guelph, and Kitchener-Waterloo area. And because I know today we're talking about student rentals, I like to mention that I went to McMaster University for my undergrad and I did my master's at Laurier. So I'm very well familiar, and now I live in Guelph. So now I'm familiar with the neighborhoods in McMaster University around that area because that's where I spent my 4 years of undergrad. And now I live in Guelph around, University of Guelph. And I also went to Laurier for my master's. So I know these areas very well. And if you have any questions about those areas, please let me know. And I'll be happy to help with that. If I was to pick a superpower, it would be in building wealth through real estate. The reason I like to highlight this is because I realize that while most people on this webinar are probably parents of university students, some are investors. And even if you're a parent of university student, most of my clients look at this purchase as an investment. So if that's something that you'd like to talk about, where we're looking at this purchase as an investment, where we run numbers, make sure that the income that's coming in can cover all your expenses, I do have that perspective. And those are things that I can help with to run the numbers, to give you market rents for the area and help wherever I can. One of the things I've been doing for our clients also is to teach their kids how to manage the property, but that is a separate topic. We can talk about that, but the reason I like to talk about that is that teaches the next generation how to manage money, how to manage investments, and it opens their eyes to see what's possible once you take this step of investing in real estate. So I love to talk about this because I've seen what it's done for my clients. I've seen what it's done for me and for those around me, investors that I work with. It's one of the best ways to build wealth in, I was gonna say North America, but I realize even, in other continents as well, it's one of the best ways to build wealth is to own land. Okay, so today we'll talk a little bit about a market update. We'll look at where interest rates are going. We'll look at affordability and home prices in this region. We'll look at demographics, population, and we'll look at income as well. We do have 3 universities in this region. We have McMaster University, we have University of Guelph, actually 4 universities. We have Laurier, and then we have University of Waterloo. On top of that, we also have some colleges. So we have Mohawk College, we have Conestoga College, and other colleges as well that are smaller. We'll look at some of the pros and cons of owning a student rental. We'll look at some deal examples from a number perspective, what the numbers would look like, and what I've been advising my clients to do. These are real deals. So these are real properties that we've sold or we've purchased, and I can go into the numbers to show you what the client wanted and how it worked out. And then we'll talk about step by step process as to how you can get started and where to go from here. We also do have a home search tool. So if you're looking to start searching for homes, we can share that tool with you, and you can start using it to find a home for your child, or in this case, to find an investment. Alrighty, talking about a market update and interest rates. Most of you probably already know by now, the rates have been going up. They started in about 2021 and 2022, where it went from 0.25 to 5% over a period of a couple months, as you can see here on the graph. One of the reasons why I like to show the graph is to show you how fast it went up, and also to compare to what has happened in the last 20 years, 24 years in this case. One thing that I'd like to bring to your attention is how fast rates are going up and how fast they're coming down. So far, the Bank of Canada has said there won't be any more rate hikes in the foreseeable future. In fact, they're starting to ease the conversation and talk about rate reductions. I was listening to a speech yesterday that the Bank of Canada gave, and they were talking about how they expect home prices to go up at the end of this year. And I think that's probably because they're thinking about reducing rates. And what I noticed is when they're making policy, usually they start to talk about it casually in the media, and they start to even like, what's the word? More like to leak some of this information to the media. And I find that they do that to prepare the market because they don't want to shock the economy because of like what stocks will do and all those things. So right now, the conversation, the prediction among the economists and among the professionals in this industry is that people are expecting rates to start going down anywhere between April or June. So they're thinking that towards the second half of this year, we should see the rate situation soften. And I'm thinking that some of that prediction, or maybe some of that talk from the media, is basically coming from, and I haven't confirmed this, but I think they probably even leak some of this information so that people can be prepared. Because if they were to just all of a sudden overnight reduce rates, I know that the stock market will be reacting to that, and they don't want such a strong reaction to it. Anyway, so short story being that rates may go down if inflation comes down. So far, we've seen that inflation has come down quite significantly. I'll show you that in the next slide. But what we're seeing is that activity is picking up. There are more buyers in the market, especially for student rentals. I happen to work and to sell homes around these 3 universities. And last week, I sold like 2 properties around one particular university where we were on the listing side. And as listing agents, we're starting to see multiple offer situations. This one property had 6 offers, right? So we're starting to see that multiple offer, even competition situation come back. I'm not saying this to scare you, but I'm just saying right now, the way the environment is, we have to get creative to still find a deal as a buyer. And we have to work with also other agents in our office to see what we can get before it goes to market. It's not as crazy as it used to be, because I realize that while I'm saying this, people might start to think that, we're back to like 2022 prices when everything was at the peak. We're not there yet, but we're just starting to see that even like the listing strategy is changing, where some agents are listing properties for less than what they're worth, hoping for multiple offer situation. That is being done because we have enough buyers for that to happen. So, we're definitely seeing buyers come back in the market. And with university students, a lot of parents are buying now because a lot of those students start their leases as of May 1st. So timing is everything in this situation. So inflation. At the peak, inflation was around 8%, as you can see in this graph. The Bank of Canada wants to aim for around 2%, so they want to keep inflation around 2%, which is why they've been raising rates to try and bring inflation down. I think that they've successfully done it. Right now, we're sitting at 3.4%. Last month, we were around 3.1%. But what's interesting in that is that when they talk about inflation, they're including the cost of housing, which is already high. So that brings the number up. I think that if you were to look at the numbers, you'll find that definitely some of these factors that are impacting inflation are factors that people don't have control of. Like rates have been so high, the cost of living has gone up, and therefore everything is a little more expensive. What's important though is that our GDP is shrinking and our unemployment is rising. Right now, we're at 5.8%. That's pretty high compared to what we've had in the last few months, in the last few years. I remember a few months ago when it was a 5.2, and then it went to 5.4, and now we're 5.8. So, it means that more people are losing their jobs, or maybe those who are looking for work aren't finding work that quickly. That is what the Bank of Canada is doing. So from a perspective of us who are watching rates, I would say that is good news because the economy is reacting the way they want it to react. We are no longer in a period of excess demand. So what we're seeing right now is in a lot of services, as well as goods and services, we're seeing that the demand meets the supply. I don't know if you remember this, but at the height of the pandemic, somewhere around 2022, even 2021 was like that. If you buy even like appliances or whatever you buy, you'd have to wait forever to receive them. I remember I waited a year to receive appliances on one of the properties that I bought. It's no longer the case. In most cases right now, things are coming in pretty quickly. And that is because the demand kind of meets the supply. Okay. Talking about prices, if we were to look to compare our prices today compared to where they were at the height of the market, which was in 2022, it's gone down by approximately 10%. And as you can see, it's fluctuated. You see here that we had a little bit of a peak. That was in May of last year, May of 2023. And what had happened then was that there was a pause in the interest rate hikes. So when that happened, all the people who were waiting for things to get better came back in the market and they were ready. And at that time too, there was speculation that rates might start to go down. So then people came back in the market, and when they saw the amount of activity that we were getting, they started raising rates again. So when they started raising rates, prices started going down again. I want you guys to see the relationship between rates and prices. Every time there's speculation of rates coming down, prices go up. There's speculation for rates. And then once they start raising interest rates, prices come back down. Why is this important, you may ask? It's because in a situation we're in right now, there's talks that rates might go down. For people who are waiting for the bottom, for the market to hit the bottom, I think given the data that we've seen, we are at the bottom right now. In fact, this data goes all the way up to December. If we look at January, January has picked up. So, and I'm predicting that February will also point upwards. And the reason for that is because when there's this, news of finally getting some level of stability, where people know what to expect, and the Bank of Canada indeed starts reducing rates, we'll see a lot more buyers. And we know there are a lot of people sitting on the sideline. How do we know that? Because the level of activity has been the lowest in the last 2 years for a while. So we're expecting to see people come back in the market, and we're expecting prices to go up. And also we can confirm that based on what the Bank of Canada is also predicting, that they expect house prices to go up in 2024. Another thing that I also want to show you is this relationship of like how over time our real estate market fluctuates. And this graph is for all of Ontario. The yellow one is all of Ontario. The green one is Wellington, which includes Guelph and the small counties around Guelph. And then we have Waterloo and Hamilton. But you'll see that these graphs are moving together, where, you know, it fluctuates, goes up and down. But if you look at a long-term view, you see that the prices are going upwards. So this is an important thing for parents who are thinking, oh, you know, housing market goes up and down. Yes, it's true. If you're looking at a short-term purchase where you're just looking to flip the property, you might have to be more careful, maybe even more conservative. However, if you're looking at a long-term strategy where you're investing in real estate for a couple of years, the trend is always upward. Alrighty, so this is the amount of inventory, the number of homes we have on market. This graph in particular is for Guelph. The reason I like to show this graph is because I want to show the level of inventory as it relates to like how the media is saying, oh, there's a lot of homes on market, you know, speculation for that. But if you see anywhere before 2016, we were used to having a lot of homes on market. In this case, like, you know, even above 400 homes on market, that was normal for them. And then in 2017, you see that the graph, the average is getting lower and lower. And during the time of the pandemic, 2021 and 2022, we had the lowest number of homes on market. Here at the bottom where you're seeing, we had, I think this was January of 2022, we had 40 homes on market in all of Guelph. Like, that is unbelievably low. So when people are talking about a high level of inventory, they're comparing where we are right now, 2024 to 2021 and 2022. And when you compare it to just these 2 years, you might think, oh, you know, like the market is crashed, there's just a lot of homes on market. But what I like to show is this is actually more normal. We're going towards normal. We're moving away from having 41 homes on market for all of Guelph to now we have about 270. Even that is low, but you see that it fluctuates, and usually the peak is somewhere in October, November, and December. And then the bottom here is around January, because as the holidays are finished in January, usually people come back to the market. In February, people come back to the market where people are ready to buy homes now that the holidays are finished. But anyway, moral of the story here is that what you hear in the media, that the market is crashing, that things are, you know, the market is unstable, that is actually not true. We are just returning to what was normal. And even if you look at the numbers in the graph where they are right now, we have fewer homes compared to what we had in the era before 2016. You see that we still have reasonably low inventory. And the reason I also like to show this is to show that right now in Canada, at least in Southern Ontario, we have not seen a buyer's market in a while. Right now, we have a market where a buyer has, you know, they have a say. You can do due diligence. Right now, the market we're in is a little bit more balanced. It's not completely balanced by definition, but it is a little bit more balanced than we've seen in the last few years. One thing I'm loving right now is that a lot of buyers who are buying, they're getting the opportunity to do their due diligence, to do inspection, to get their financing in order. What we had in 2020 and 2021, even going into 2022, was crazy. Right now, we're in a good time because people are still able to do their due diligence before they make the purchase, which is very good. I feel like it's a more fair way where buyers are feeling more empowered to do their inspection and to get their financing done. In some cases, we've even seen people put in a condition to sell their home before they buy something. That is something that would never have happened in 2021 and 2022, given the way the market was. Alrighty, so talking about interest rate predictions. Right now, the graph that you're seeing right here, the table that you're seeing, this is the prediction of what the different banks think the direction the rates will take. As you can see, most banks are predicting a drop in their prime rate. For example, they were saying that at the end of 2023, they think most of them were around 5% for their lending rate. And now they're predicting that as of at the end of 2024, they think they'll be anywhere between 3.5 and 4.5. And you can see maybe somewhere even around 4% for banks like CIBC and RBC and Scotia. And you can see that they're predicting that we'll see another decline even into 2025, where they think that, for example, CIBC, they think that their rate will be around 2.5%. That is their targeted rate for 2025. The reason I show this graph is to show that not only are economists and all the other professionals predicting a rate decline, but also the different banks are expecting it. So right now, when you go to the bank trying to get a mortgage, you'll definitely get different rates. You get a rate for variable, you get a rate for a 2-year term, you get a rate for a 1-year term, you get a rate for a 5-year term. What I like to tell my clients is make an educated decision based on what else you're seeing. If you lock in right now, going back to this graph, if you lock in with where rates are right now being 5%, and you lock in at this highest rate, this is the highest rate we've had in over 20 years. This is the highest rate we've had. So if you lock in at this price, just know that you're paying the highest rate for the next 5 years. What I'm telling my clients to do is definitely to compare and see what risk you're willing to take, speak to your mortgage broker, see all the available options. A lot of our clients right now are taking variable, but variable is definitely going to be more expensive because the banks want to discourage you from taking a variable mortgage. Okay. I was just talking to one of our team members today, telling them that I actually have one mortgage that's coming up for renewal in the summer. I'm waiting to see what I'll do, but I'll likely just go on variable, even though it's more expensive right now in the short term. But in the long term, we were just discussing how when rates go down, they just drop very quickly. Yeah, so basically that's what the banks are predicting. You can see here, and we can share this slide as well, just so you know what they're thinking they'll end up at as of 2025. And you can see the bond yield as well, because these bond yields, they impact rates as well. They kind of go hand in hand. Alrighty, so talking about the universities, as I said, there's 3 universities in this area. McMaster is also on there on the list. And we also have one college, which is Conestoga College. The University of Waterloo has 41,000 students. They have over 100 programs. It's the #1 engineering and technology school in Canada, and there are 23 in the world. Beside the University of Waterloo, they're literally beside one another. You can walk to both of them from one address. It's Wilfrid Laurier University. That is the school I went to for my master's program. It is well known as a business school. They have an exceptional business degree program, which is what I took. I did a master's in business economics. They have about 19,000 students. And the Lazaridis Scale-Up program companies have surpassed over 1 billion in new capital raised. So this is a very active business school that is training students who are going on to become entrepreneurs themselves. So those 2 universities are in the city of Waterloo, and the city of Waterloo, Kitchener, and Cambridge are all of them in the region of Waterloo. So if a student was going to Waterloo or Laurier, you could buy properties right around the 2 universities in the city of Waterloo. We also have clients whose kids live in Kitchener, and that's okay because it's a short bus ride away. One thing I also like to mention is that around these universities, there's a lot of high rises, like a lot of buildings. We actually just sold a unit close to the University of Waterloo. And I'd be happy to kind of look at the numbers of what things look like once you buy the different type of investments. Here in Guelph, we have the University of Guelph. It is the #1. It's #1 in Canada and 5th in the world for veterinary science. It's #1 in Canada for food science and technology. They have approximately 30,000 students and over 80 programs. One thing I also like to mention is that with the University of Guelph, we're seeing that their intake has gone up by 20% compared to pre-pandemic times. So right now, the student body has gone up by 20%. I think pre-pandemic, the student body was approximately 25,000, and now they have 5,000 more students. And what that means, it means that 5,000 more students who need a place to live. And what we're seeing right now, even in Guelph, because we don't have a lot of high-rise buildings, we're seeing that even rents have gone up. Like I remember one of our student rentals rented for about $450 a room about 4 years ago. And now the average is about $900 a room. So you can see like rents per room have gone up so high, and it's because these universities have increased their student intake throughout the pandemic, and now where students need a place to live, and that's why there's such a huge demand for student rentals. Beside that, we also have Conestoga College. There's over 30,000 students enrolled across 9 campuses. It's the only Ontario college that offers accredited engineering degrees. And Conestoga College also has a trade school that ranks top 3 in Canada. So it's also a big institution. We don't have Hamilton on this list, but if we look at Hamilton, we do have Mohawk College as well as McMaster University. Both of these are also big universities. So if somebody is interested in Hamilton and the schools there, please let me know. But on this slide, we only have the schools in Waterloo region and Guelph. So what are some of the cons of owning a student rental? First of all, you have to have time for property management and maintenance. I find that with students, you definitely have to have a relationship with them so that they can report to you things are going wrong. I can give you an example of one of my clients where the property was leaking, like one of the sinks was leaking, but the students did not even think to report it to the landlord because students are busy. They're not experienced in this area. So a lot of the times you definitely need to be there to have a good relationship with them, or at least make it known to them that if something is wrong, they need to report it right away. Because what ended up happening was over time, there was water damage. And by the time the landlord saw it, it was kind of like too late. So they had to spend a lot of money to fix it. So you definitely have to have time for property management. If you don't have time, then you can hire a property management company. What I've seen is a lot of buyers are using their HELOC or homeowner line of credit to raise capital for down payment. In that case, if you do that, you have to pay interest on your HELOC. But in some cases, we've run numbers such that whatever income you're getting from the rent is enough to cover your interest on a HELOC as well. With students, there's frequent vacancies because a lot of students they live in residence for the first year and then they go off campus, but most of them are like every 2 to 3 years, you're having to get new tenants. That could be a bad thing and a good thing. Bad thing because obviously you have to, frequent vacancies, you always have to find people, but it's also a good thing because you get an opportunity to set market rents every 2 to 3 years. And the good thing too with students is that a lot of you don't have to worry about them, staying for a long time because they're only in a city for as long as they need to be to finish their program. Of course, we also have to think about opportunity cost, and that is what else would you do with the money if you weren't investing it in a student rental, right? Like in this case, you could pay off your mortgage or you could invest it elsewhere, but in this case, you're investing in real estate. So that is, you definitely miss out on other opportunities simply because you've decided to buy a student rental. In some cases, the odds of destruction are a little bit higher just because, if like Waterloo is very famous for their St. Patrick's event, they party, they just, so a lot of the times the students having parties and all that, there's a higher likelihood that, your property could be destroyed. However, there are also ways to avoid that or to screen or to enforce, to make sure that parents will be responsible. One of the ways that our clients do is that they always get their parents to co-sign. And if a parent co-signs on a property, you know that even if something is damaged, the parent hopefully will keep their child accountable, or at least they'll pay for the damage that their child has made. There can be conflict among students. We see this sometimes where students have to move out because they don't agree or they don't get along with the rest of the group. In that case, new students are having to come in, but these are all things that can happen when you have student rentals. Sometimes, depending on which buildings, you might have to pay a high down payment because some lenders don't like to lend in student rental areas. So depending on which, if it's a student rental designated building, you might have to pay a higher down payment. Now, we've done transactions in student rental designated buildings where people were able to still do 20%, but there are situations when you have to go to 35%. So one of the things that people ask me is whether or not they can do a 5% down payment on a student rental. I think that if the building was not, I think a few things have to be put in place. One, I think that your child will probably have to be on the mortgage, and they can say that they will move in, because you cannot have an investment property and pay 5% down payment. I've seen a few unique scenarios where people have done 5% down payment, but that's because their child was also a purchaser. They were also in the transaction. But in most cases, always bank on doing 20% down payment for student rentals, at least 20%. I've seen situations where the lender wants 35%, but that is something that we can discuss on a case-by-case basis. Okay, looking at the pros, okay? As I say, there's frequent vacancies. This is an opportunity to charge market rents. As students, like I was saying, like one of the properties that our family owns, students were paying about $450 4 years ago. But now as students revolve and they're out, you have an opportunity to raise your rents to market rent, which is about $950. And that's good because, again, that helps with as the cost of borrowing has gone up, that helps covering your mortgage and all the other things that have gone up. It's also a good opportunity to build wealth because the property will appreciate over time, and you also get mortgage paid down. These students that are in this property will pay it off over time with their rents, and that way you get to build wealth. I've had clients who've done this. They bought a property, their child lived in it for the first 4 years, and they kept it as a rental for another 4. And at the end of 8 years, they sell it and they pay off their own mortgage. So this is definitely a strong way of, I'll show you some numbers in the next slides where we can kind of go through the deals and show you what happened and how they were able to build wealth through that opportunity. You also can get cash flow, and you get paid. So you basically get paid to own the property. What this means is that the income that's coming in is higher than your expenses. That way you get a positive cash flow on a monthly basis. And I also say that for those who are using their line of credits or their HELOCs to buy properties or to buy an investment property, in that case, we would also include your expense on the HELOC, whatever your interest rate is. We can include that on to make sure that the positive cash flow is actually net positive. I find that students are better tenant profiles. They're less likely to default on payments as they get help from their parents, but also most of them have a future and they don't want to get in trouble or to cause any problems. So I find in most cases that students are one of the easiest tenant profiles there is. They're easy to talk to, easy to, like, you can easily have a strong, positive relationship with them because most of them are not here to cause trouble. They're just here to go through university. They know they have an obligation to pay rent and they will pay rent. And in most cases, there's a problem where maybe they're kicked out of school or something happens, they'll just move out. So I've seen in most cases that very likely they won't cause problems. I've seen one scenario in particular where a student caused a problem, but that's because the student graduated and they stayed in the house for like maybe 5 more years after graduation. And maybe from there, they went from being, typical student to being somebody else. But in most cases, I find students are very good and easy to work with. And if you're fair to them, they'll be fair to you. We also find that you can get higher rents if it's structured properly. And in this example, could be things like, having more bedrooms or buying properties that attract a higher quality. Like, some of our clients will get well-renovated properties, and they will have international students or mature students who pay more. I also like that with students, they have predictable schedules and timeline. In this case, even some of them will sign 4-year leases or 3-year leases, however long they need. But you can kind of predict their schedules, because a lot of leases are starting on May 1st, and they're going all the way to April 30th the following year. So if you're, looking to sell, looking to do something, you can easily predict when they'll move in and when they'll move out. And for parents, if you buy a student rental, your child can live there rent-free if you structure it properly. And this was a case with one of my clients, where they had 5 bedrooms, and there are 4 friends. Their child brought 4 friends to live with him, and the 4 different rents, or the 4 friends, were paying enough to cover all expenses, and their child got to live there for free. There's also a high demand for student rentals right now in the right area, because, as I said, the universities have increased the student intake, and all those students, 20% more students than they were taking before the pandemic, and those students need a place to live. So your student rental will never be vacant. I can assure you that. Why? Because I know the demand. And even now, like, a lot of parents, if you're here, you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about, that it's hard to find the right student rental. So the vacancy on them is very, very low. But you have to be in a good area. You have to be where the students want to be. If you buy a student rental in a different neighborhood where the students don't want to be, then that could be a whole different story. However, if you're in the right area where students want to be, definitely you never have vacancy. Okay, so here are some examples of deals that our clients are doing. This is a transaction that we did last year, just around like April or May of last year, where the purchase price was around $585. It's 4 bedrooms, 4 bath. This is a student designated building. The monthly payment came up to be about $29.65, and that's the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and condo fees included. The rent per room was $975. And part of the reason why this was the case is because this building, each bed comes with a bathroom. So it's a bed and bath, and a bedroom and a bathroom. And that's why it was around $975. In fact, in that building, some students even pay $1,000. So when we done all the numbers, the parent has a cash flow of about $935. Okay. Deal number 2, this was a property in the Waterloo area. The purchase price was around $500, and it's a property that had 4 bedrooms and 2 baths. The monthly payment, when it comes to mortgage, taxes, insurance, and condo fees, was around $2,500, and the rent per room was about $775. And total, the parent is collecting $3,100, and the cash flow is about $558 after you pay your expenses. So here with the $558, this is when we would come in and say, okay, you have a HELOC or a homeowner line of credit. What's your interest on that? And then we'll put that into that calculation. And also you have to remember that we're running these numbers with rates being the highest they've been in a while. If indeed rates go down, the mortgage payment comes down, then the cash flow gets better over time. Example number 3, this was actually one of my favorite properties, because it was a more expensive property, but it's a lovely, beautiful property. So the purchase price was around $950. It's 7 bedrooms, 2 baths. The monthly payment on the mortgage with the purchase price of $950 was around $4,816, and that includes the mortgage, taxes, insurance. There was no condo fees on this one, so it was just mortgage, taxes, insurance. And there, the rent was $975 per room, because there was 7 bedrooms, and these 7 bedrooms were nicely renovated, as you can see. This is one of the strategies actually that one of my clients uses, they get beautiful homes and they attract the kind of students who would want to live in such a beautiful, well cared for environment. And they're charging $975 per room times 7. It was $6,825, and their cash flow is around $2,000. For me, when I'm thinking about these places, even like with your cash flow of $2,000, you can even, like, let's say, spend another, let's say, $200 and get a regular cleaner who can come in here, clean the place, keep it upkeep. I feel like if you invest in the students or in your properties in this way, you definitely will get a return from it. What happens is you end up with a better quality tenant who wants to stay, who loves the place, who takes care of it because they're proud of how it looks, but also willing to pay more. So this is definitely one of the strategies that a lot of our clients are using. This deal is one of my clients who bought in 2014 for $300. This is one of those, like I was also telling you, that they were able to sell and, you know, kind of build wealth using this strategy over time. So they bought in 2018 for $300 and they sold in 2022 for $800. You know, right now comparables are suggesting anywhere between 680 to maybe about 720, depending on the condition. But the monthly payment on this one is about $3,400. This one is a townhouse, so it does have a condo fee. So the $3,400 includes mortgage, taxes, insurance, and condo fees. And inside it has 5 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and the room, the rent per room is about $850. So you're getting about $4,250. So this is potentially like an example of a deal that I'd recommend, is where, you know, you're looking to get a property, especially with where the market is, with the graphs we've seen, that right now the market is probably at one of those bottoms and we expect prices to start going up. If you were to get something like this for about 680, or let's say, depending on the condition, 720, you know that this property in 2022 was selling for about 800. So there's room to go up, right? And if you hold it for the next, let's say, 8 years or 10 years, you definitely know that there's an opportunity to build wealth through this investment. And not only that, instead of paying somebody else, you know, in this case, if you have a child who needs a place to live, instead of you paying somebody else $1,000, you can put that $1,000 into your own mortgage payment. That is what our clients are doing today. Okay, so if you are here and you have a child or you are an investor who wants to buy a student rental, where do you start? I think that the first thing you should definitely think about is the timeline. Right now, a lot of students are moving as of May 1st. Those who are in university and residents, they probably have to move out sooner. So we definitely have to look at the timeline and see what works. Second, you need to connect with your mortgage broker or a bank to get it pre-approved. We have mortgage brokers that we work with. So if you're interested in being in one of these areas, please let me know. I can connect you with one of our trusted partners and they can kind of walk you through the process, get you pre-approved. And then we can kind of see. The good thing about getting pre-approved is we get to get a good understanding of what the budget is. Are we in the 500s? Are we in the 800s? And then we'll run the numbers based on what you're qualified for. Once you've been pre-approved, then you reach out to a professional or you reach out to us for a consultation. I would say if you're buying in these 3 areas, Kitchener, Waterloo, Guelph, and Hamilton, reach out to us and we can do a consultation and see what you're looking for and how we can get you there. Then we start to do a home search. Of course, we do our due diligence. When I talk about due diligence, I'm even talking about things like verifying before you buy a property. This is very important. Verifying the student rentals are allowed, because we've seen situations where people have bought homes in condominiums or condo corporations that do not allow student rentals. So in that case, like, you know, sometimes it's okay, your daughter or son can move in because they're an owner, they can move in. However, when it's time to rent it out, you might not be allowed to do so just because the condo corporation does not allow that. So part of due diligence is basically checking everything, running your numbers, making sure that you get what basically what the plan was, sticking with the plan, making sure that the numbers make sense, making sure that you get a good deal and avoid overpaying, because that's also something that could happen, especially in an environment right now where there's multiple offers on most student rentals. Next, we have to negotiate and close your home of your choice. Okay, so these kind of are the steps of where to go from here if you're thinking about buying a student rental. Alrighty, now we can look at the questions as they come in. Alrighty, so there's a question here. Give me 1 second. I'll just also look at all the other questions because I'm getting a lot of questions coming up. Okay, so here we have the question. What is the average price for London, Ontario? So London, Ontario is less expensive. To be honest, I'm not very familiar with our market, but I do have a very good agent who works in that market. So if you're looking at London, let me know. I can connect you with somebody over there. But I know that the prices in London have gone down significantly. I think London and Niagara have dropped more than most areas around GTA. And one of the reasons is because London is just too far from GTA, and all the investors who were buying in London and Niagara are no longer buying. So prices have gone down. If I was to guess, probably I'll say around 500 is the average price of a home in London. And even that, it's like a detached bungalow. You can get a detached bungalow for 500. Okay. I was told that the next question is, I was told by a mortgage broker at the bank that you can't take money out of your HELOC to use as a down payment for another property. Is this true? No, this is not true, because we have a lot of clients who are doing it. They're using their HELOCs. And also you have to remember, when you speak to people at the bank, some of them are just interns. Like I've seen at the bank where people are just interns, you know, they know what they've been told. But maybe they don't know more, or also maybe that bank does not allow it, but another bank will allow it. So I would say that if you're thinking about this, I personally prefer to work with mortgage brokers as opposed to the bank itself, because when you're working with one bank, for example, if you go to RBC, you only can get what RBC has. You don't get to see what other banks have. When you go to a mortgage broker, you get products from all the different banks. You know, you get, if let's say RBC does not allow you to use your HELOC, maybe CIBC will allow you, or maybe another bank will allow you, you know? So basically, when one bank says no, who knows what another bank will say, right? And I've seen it myself where I've gone to, let's say Scotiabank, they've said no, but RBC says yes. So I'd say work with a mortgage broker. Do not go to the bank. Okay, maybe I'll rephrase that. There are scenarios where going to the bank makes sense, because when you go to a bank and you have a good relationship with them, you might get a lower rate if this is your first purchase or second purchase. But as you go from like 1 to 2 to investment property, it gets more complicated to work with the bank, and you might even get a better rate when you work with a mortgage broker, because they can look at all the different products that the different banks have without running your credit 10 times. Because if you were to go to RBC and then go to CIBC and then go to different ones separately, every single one of them will run your credit. But if you want everything done in one place without running your credit 10 times, then work with a mortgage broker. Okay, next question is, can I keep my home in Guelph because I'll be moving to a new house? So this is something that we can talk about. Maybe I can connect with you and see how to help you. If you want to keep your home, absolutely, you can keep it. But I would say, you know, rent it out so that you're not paying all these expenses. But this looks like a very personal question that I can call you and talk about. How do you save on your HELOC? That is also very specific. You know, I don't know if you're talking about like rates, like can you shop around for rates? That is something that you can do. But I think that maybe what I'll do is I'll reach out and I'll look specifically into your situation, because I can't just answer that question without more details. Okay. But can you keep your home? Yes, you can keep your home and move into another. You just have to structure it correctly so that it's not a burden to you to keep it. Okay, next question is, how do you avoid renting single rooms? Is there a good time for putting your rental on the market to ensure that you get one group versus individuals? This is a very good question. Listen, sometimes it can be a problem to rent to to rent it by room, right? Especially with students. The best time to rent property out to make sure you get a group is around between now and May 1st, because a lot of students, a lot of groups are looking to find a place by May 1st. So if you're looking to get a group, you should definitely get your property on market anytime between now and May 1st. Because after May 1st, you will not get a group. You'll probably get like one grad student who just got accepted and now they have to find a room, or one student who doesn't have, like, so if you're looking to get a group, it has to be sooner than later because most students are moving as of May 1st. Another thing to keep in mind too is that with group rentals, like sometimes because the group knows each other, they get along easier than people who don't know each other. So it's always almost in your best interest to get a group. Okay. Q2, I have a 4-bedroom, 1-bathroom, and a powder room. I'm thinking of adding a bathroom to get better rent. Do you think it will help? What's a good ratio of bedrooms to bathroom? That is a very good question. Adding a bathroom always is a good thing. However, the question is, do you have space to do it legally? Because you also have to think about when you go to sell it. If you have space and it can be done without taking away from the enjoyment of the property, like for example, don't get rid of a living room just to create a bathroom. I think that would not be a good thing for the resale value. So I'd say if you're looking to do some improvement, if you have the budget and you have the space, you have the budget, absolutely go ahead and do it. Is there a good ratio of bedrooms to bathroom? I would say at least maybe, in most cases, I've seen 3-to-1, where there's 3 rooms, 1 bathroom. That is an ideal situation. However, if you have 2-to-1, even better. I think that in order to answer this question better, I think that I'd have to see the house to see if indeed you should do it or not. Because sometimes you might add a bathroom and it won't give you more higher rents just because of the way the house is. You might still be able to get as much as you can right now as is without adding the bathroom. So it depends on the property, where it is, how many other rooms are in there, how many other bathrooms. If you have a full bathroom and a powder room is good to have. The full bathroom upstairs is probably fine. But if you have the space and the budget to do it, you probably can do it and charge more. Okay. Do you have any property management that helps maintain student rentals? I'm looking to buy in Ontario, but I currently live in Ottawa. Okay, so we do have a few property management companies that we can recommend in different cities. So let me know if you have questions or if you'd like to be connected to one of them. How do we handle risks like additional occupants by renters in unkept premises? So the way you handle these situations, a lot of students don't do that. Like a lot of students do not bring in strangers to come and live with them. But the way to do it is probably to just have an open conversation with them, maybe even put it in the lease. And as I said, because most students, if you're renting to students, you want their parents to co-sign. If their parents are co-signed, it's less likely that somebody will come and just live there unauthorized. A lot of students, because they also know that they have just their room, if somebody else comes, their roommates will complain, or you hear about it. So in most cases, I'd say put it in the lease and have an open conversation. Unkept premises, you might see that with students. And right now, if you go in any student rental, you'll definitely see that somehow it looks unkept. Students are busy, they have exams, they're stressed. I would not stress that, you should try and control how they live, because any family that moves into that property anyway, you have to let them live their life. If you're indeed concerned about how your property looks, I'd say maybe do an inspection twice a year. Every 6 months you can go and do an inspection, make sure there's nothing leaking, make sure that everything is working, reach out to them, find out that everything is good. And maybe twice a year you can send in a professional cleaner. You could also do that. Some of these things are so minimal, like they're not that expensive, but they add so much value to your property. Because first of all, you know the condition of your property, and also the students are going to be happier living in a property that's well maintained. So that's what I would recommend if you're worried about unkept premises. Okay. Question number 5, or maybe number 7. I don't know where I am. I have a lot of questions. I'll do my best to get through all of them. However, if I don't answer your question, please feel free to connect with me because I'd like to answer these questions, but I have 3 minutes left. I'll do my very best. However, I also would love to just be able to connect and kind of talk about those questions one-on-one. There's a question here, what's the average rate for property managers? How much do they usually charge? I think it depends on the service that you're getting. I've seen 8% that include, you know, maybe they're doing more. I've seen some that charge 6%. I've even seen some that charge 5% of the rent. So it depends on how much they're doing for you. And, you know, if they're good, I think with property management, I find it's a hit or miss. If you find a really good company, it's such a good, like it's so good that you can sleep well at night. But the bad ones are very bad. I feel like there's no in between. It's either the really good ones or the bad ones. So I would say when you're looking for a property management company, don't just pick anybody. Make sure that maybe at least get referrals. Find out who people are using. In this case, if you want a connection, you could ask us and we could try to connect you with people that we know that do a good job. But with property management, it's either a hit or miss, and the rate will range from 8% to 5%. I've seen it all the way from 8 to 5, depending on what they're doing for you. Okay. I think I'll answer 2 more questions and then we'll close. Okay. Buying a student rental will be my 3rd property. I wanted to ask if there are any students that care about fancy homes that are curated with great tests, or it's only about affordable housing. To be honest, as I was saying earlier, if you have a good product, most parents, you know, there are parents out there who want their child to live in a very beautiful, expensive home. So if you have a product that shows really well, I find that those will usually attract grad students or international students, or even those families, you know, students who come from, you know, well-off families where they want their child to be in it's actually called executive student rentals. So these are properties that are very nice, and also like you can charge a premium simply because your property is nice and beautiful. And also in addition to that, as I was saying, if you wanted to kind of take better care of them, you can even run your numbers such that you have a budget to send a cleaner every now and then. It can be like on a monthly basis where a cleaner goes there, they clean, they take care of it, they keep it nice and pristine, and you can charge a premium for it. So that's actually one of my favorite strategies for student rentals. Okay. I have a lot of questions. I'm trying to decide which one to answer. Government is extending a ban on foreign buying for Canadian housing. What's your take on the impact on this on the rental market? Okay, this is a good one to end the conversation on. We know that the Trudeau government has said they will extend the foreign buyer ban for another 2 years. Initially, it was supposed to end in 2025, but now they pushed it into 2027. My personal take on this is that it probably won't change much. And the reason for that is when we look at the numbers and we look at the percentage of homes being purchased by foreign buyers, it's less than 1%. So they are, for me, when I look at it, I think they're probably doing it to get points for doing something. Whether or not that something will result in lower prices, I don't know. In fact, I don't think so, because they're targeting 1% versus the 99, you know, and we know that 1% is not going to impact the market as much as the 99 would. So if only 1% of purchases is coming from foreign buyers, why are they targeting that instead of coming out with policies that will impact the 99%? Anyway, my take is that it's not going to change much because foreign buyers, and what I learned actually in the last couple of months that this has been in effect is that there's a lot of loopholes. Like there's a lot of exceptions, except if you're doing this. So foreign buyers can still buy unless, you know, like it's basically the way it's written. I think it's just one of those things where governments will do things to look like they're busy doing something when indeed they're not doing anything. That's just my take. And we've seen governments do it all the time, where they just like want to be busy, come policies, look like they have a lot to do. When you look at it, and like in this case, you look at the numbers, you find that this is only accounting for 1% versus the 99% of transactions that they are not addressing. Anyway, not to get too political, but yeah, I don't think it will change much. Anyways, thank you very much for being here on this webinar. This was one of my favorite topics to talk about, and I'm glad that you were here. You were asking questions. I hope that I answered most of them. I know that there are at least 10 questions that I didn't get to. I will call those people and answer those questions one-on-one. Once again, if you need anything from us, or if you need to buy in this area, feel free to connect with us. We work in this area, and we do these webinars so that our clients can make informed and educated decisions. So if that is you, you're thinking about buying something in this area, do not hesitate to connect with us, because that is what we're here for. Anyways, thanks again for attending, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Take care.